What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fins. I am your host, Aaron. If it's your first time seeing one of my videos, I'd like to welcome you to my channel where I do reviews on albums and singles and EPs. And for today's review, we're going to be talking about the new album, The Path, by the band Fit for a King. Fit for a King is a metalcore band from Texas. They started about 2007, and The Path is their sixth studio album. And I gotta say that there is a lot of just buzz around this album for I'm not extremely sure what reason. I think it's because there's a lot of bands that have started out heavy and aggressive and they've slowly moved softer into rock, and they've done other stuff where it just kind of involves a little bit of metal here and there, but it's more just a lot of other music, and they kind of stray from it's kind of like they just forgot where they came from, and all their diehard fans are like, "Why have you done this to us?" And they hate them after that. And I think they're afraid that Fit for a King is going to do that. And there's just a lot of talk. There's a lot of controversy. This album has tons of mixed reviews of people who are either in love with it or people who just hate the thing. So, yeah. And Ryan Kirby, the vocalist for Fit for a King, said on his Twitter account, I believe he said this, I could be misquoting him, I might be wrong, but he said this is going to be one of their most diverse albums, and I have to agree with him, but not so much in the sense that he might think I am. I basically mean that there's some songs on here that I love, there's some songs on here that they're okay, and then there's some songs on here that I absolutely hate, which there's not a whole lot of albums that are like that for me. So yeah, I gotta say this is one of their more diverse albums, one of the more diverse albums I've ever heard. Because not only is there usually not songs I absolutely love on a track or on an album, there's also not a whole lot of times where I find myself loving songs and absolutely hating other songs as well. Usually there's a middle ground, but somehow they managed to do that. But before I get into the nitty gritty and I start giving it praise and tearing it apart, I just want to talk about the production in this thing, because I feel like the production is honestly this album's best attribute. It sounds freaking solid all the way through. Every single thing in this album sounds good production wise, and they're not afraid to overly compress some things, and they're not afraid to let things get a little bit more raw and more rough around the edges, which helps out a lot when listening to this. The first song on the album, Face the Hate, sets the pace for how this album is gonna sound. I do like the meaning behind this album. It's about how just the state of the world, how people can have simple disagreements, but because of these tiny disagreements or things that don't even really matter, it just fuels into outright hatred for each other, which I completely agree with the message that's in this song. And the song starts out with a pretty cool drum and guitar intro, but then once it gets into the verses, honestly, it kind of loses me a little bit. It sounds good, but it's just something that's been done on not just in metalcore in general, but on a lot of their albums. They've done this sound before where it's very basic drums, very just generic sounding, non-dynamic guitar riff, and the vocals sound phenomenal, but again, it's nothing that we haven't really heard from them before. The chorus sounds great and it's very catchy. The outro is super solid. I mean, it's a good intro song, and like I said, it sets the pace for how this album is going to sound all the way through. The second song, Breaking the Mirror, I did a review on this single when it very first came out because it was the first single for this album, which they released 4 singles for this album. There's only 10 songs on it. They released 40% of the content in this album before it was even released, which I don't really understand the concept of that. Maybe they're just trying to fuel the hype for it, or I don't know. Actually, it does make a lot of sense. I'm going to talk about that once I've gone through everything. I'll talk about why I think they did that. But Breaking the Mirror, I basically rated it a 2.5 out of 5. It's a very average sounding song. It's something that a lot of bands are going for. It's very mainstream sounding, and yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because I did a full 6-minute review on it. And then you have a song like The Prophet, which is supposed to be the song of the album. It's supposed to be like the thing that everybody falls in love with, and I gotta admit, I fell for this song. This is such a cool sounding song. It has a really cool intro. Even though it sounds a lot like all the other songs on the album, it's done right. It just the song structure in it, the way how it goes through its hills and valleys. They did a good job on the songwriting, musically, lyrics, everything. Everything on this song is how Fit for a King should do every single song. And, like, the lyrics, I don't mean to say that Fit for a King doesn't put heart and soul and feel into their lyrics, but this is one of the few songs to me on the album that feels vulnerable and open, and it's serious. Like, I feel like a lot of their songs, they just try and throw in as many hooks and as many just catchy phrases as they can, and just things that they don't use phrases that aren't uncommon in songs. So you hear a phrase and you're like, oh, that's kind of cheesy or cliche sounding in a way. But on The Prophet, I feel like they didn't go that route. I feel like they just went into a studio and they didn't have a different band's sound in their head, and they just made this. And this is beautiful and perfect, and this is how they should do it every time. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, or maybe just a lot of people scratching their head, but I also enjoyed God of Fire, which was another single that was released, which a lot of people were just kind of like, it's like in the middle. Like, people just kind of liked it, or they just kind of didn't like it. And I gotta admit, it's not like a very interesting song. It does feature Ryo Kinoshita, I believe his name is. I always have a hard time with his last name. And his vocal feature is fantastic, and the album fits Ryan Kirby's vocals so well, and they do so good in the chorus. And the chorus sounds great. I mean, it's an okay sounding song, but I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is the electronic beat that they use in the intro and different parts of the song and in the outro. It just made the song feel different from the rest of the album. Sure, it isn't like the most original thing ever, but in this album, it kind of is. Two other songs I enjoyed a lot were Stockholm and The Louder Voice. Stockholm mostly just because of the vocals, honestly. The vocals just sound good. Ryan Kirby's vocals are freaking peak performance in this song. The rest of the song, I mean, it sounds okay. It's all right, but the vocals definitely save it. And The Louder Voice, it sounds a lot like some other songs on the album, but the song structure in it really helped me out a lot to really like dig into this thing, and it sounds different enough, adds a little bit of diversity to it, which I know Fit for a King isn't known for being super diverse or super technical and things like that. And they've even mentioned like they're not at that skill level to do crazy over the top stuff. So they have to rely on more just song structures and rhythm patterns, which they do in this song, and it works out for them really well. And plus, it has a guitar solo in it, which Fit for a King's guitar solos never really wow me, but it's pretty sexy. It's a good guitar solo. Then you have a song like The Path, which is also supposed to be one of like the songs on the album. And I swear, I tried to love this song. I tried to like it. I tried to enjoy this song, but it just couldn't happen. I can't see past the generic and the basicness that this song is. Even like the lyrics, there's just chanty woes in the song. There's a bell tolling. I can't. It's just so cliche and not cringy, but it's just something where I just want to change it. It's so mainstream sounding. It sounds like this song is kind of like breaking the mirror. Like they just want to do something that everybody else is doing, so maybe they get noticed more. Maybe they could get on the big stage with them, maybe. And I couldn't fall for this song. I tried real hard. I was like, hell yeah, The Path. People like this song. Let's do this. And I was like, why do people like this song? And then there's a song Locked in My Head, which I didn't like that song. It's another one of their singles that they released, and it sounds so much. It doesn't even sound like something that all the other bands are doing. It sounds like just every single song on this freaking album. It sounds like a compilation of everything. It's just it's just a filler song. That's all it is. Even though the lyrics and the meaning behind it are they're not bad. The meaning is solid. The lyrics are very repetitive, but that chorus, man, I gotta give it some prop, because after I listened to the song like 8 times over the past week, every night I've gone to bed and I've had that stupid chorus stuck in my head. And I gotta admit, it's not a bad chorus. It's not a bad hook. It is catchy, and it's not a typical lyric that I guess I complain about them doing too much. They just find just lyrics that I feel like this band has a hard time thinking for themselves sometimes. And that might be true. Maybe they're just coming up with this other stuff. Maybe they're just not as creative as some of the other bands that I listen to or that are out there. But I feel like just a lot of this stuff is just regurgitation, even lyrically. And the last song on the album, Vendetta, it's not a good closing song. It just didn't work for me. It sounds like everything else on the album. So by the time you get to it, you're like, can we just end this thing already? I've already heard this 10 other times. It sounds like another song on the album that very specifically has the same kind of hook as the song Annihilation. It it's just void of creativity. The outro's kind of all right on it. It's not a good closing song. It's kind of meh at best as far as the song is concerned. I mean, it would have been a better song if it was mixed somewhere in the album and they found a different way to end the album. This one it isn't a closer for me. And this is the point where I get kind of mean, because the song Annihilation is absolute it's trash. It's horrible. I hate this song. I don't hate hardly any songs. There's probably 5 songs that I hate, and I can't think of any of them right now. I can only think of Annihilation. It's the only song that I hate that I could think of. It's so empty. It's so boring. It goes nowhere. The hook is such a tryhard. This is just showing that they just want so bad to be they want to be heard on that Sirius XM radio. They want more people to hear them. They want people to not have to think about their music, and just anybody can listen to this, and it's just such a easy song to listen to. It's not compelling whatsoever. There is no substance to it. There's no creativity to it. So when Ryan Kirby's like, this is our most diverse album, and they put out this absolute garbage, I felt like this song is an insult to anybody who listens to it. And not only that, but it's a straight up rip off. They ripped off this song from another band. Go and listen to Heaven Shall Burn and listen to Annihilation, and then just pause this video, listen to Annihilation, and go and listen to Heaven Shall Burn's Inzit. Or I think that's how it said. It's German or something. And it is the exact same thing, but instead of it being good, it's shit. That's what it is. I hate this song. So with all that said, I gotta give The Path by Fit for a King a 4.7 out of 10. And I gotta admit, this was kind of a hard album for me to give a rating to, because it's got some songs I love, songs that were just kind of in the middle, and then a song that I hated, and then another song that sounded almost exactly like the song that I hated. So I had to take all of that into account. And honestly, it got as high of a rating as it did based solely on the songs that I like. Otherwise, it's all kind of just a 2 or a 0 for me. Those songs definitely saved the day. And I also gotta admit that I do rate albums and music fairly harshly. And the reasoning for that is because if I find something that's mediocre, or even just kind of barely above average, and I take it to you and I'm like, dude, this is a 10 out of 10 album of the year right here. And you listen to it and you're like, it's whatever. It's mediocre. I hear better stuff every single day, just going through YouTube and Spotify, not even looking for it. And then if I find something that really is gold, like the greatest thing in the world, you probably won't even listen to it, because the last thing I brought you was just kind of whatever. So I admit that my reviews are harsh. You guys, casual listeners, might enjoy this a little bit more than I did. But after listening to it for a week, I probably listened to this album at least 10 times. I feel very confident that this is a below average album, especially compared to some of the other stuff that Fit for a King has done. Their last couple albums were great. Dark Skies, I gotta admit, I got kind of bored with it after a while, but I mean, it's still a fantastic album. There isn't really a bad song. Even like the filler songs, or the songs that are just supposed to be big time hype and they're just heavy for the sake of being heavy, like I kind of label Backbreaker from Dark Skies as being like that. It's not a bad song. I enjoy the hell out of it. When I listen to it, hell yeah, I mosh in the car. But then you try and duplicate it again with Annihilation, get the hell out of here. That's just, it's just I hate that song so much. But I want to know what you guys think. If you've listened to The Path, go ahead and leave a comment below letting me know what you thought. If you haven't, Go ahead and listen to a couple of the songs that I mentioned if you dare, and let me know what you would rate it. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a like. If you're a Fit for a King fan and you just love everything they put out, feel free to give it a dislike and tell me how horrible of a person I am and how I suck and don't know music. And let me know why, though. Let me know why you think this is the greatest album ever. Don't just tell me, oh yeah, it's super heavy, because I didn't even rate this album on if it is heavy or not. I didn't even go into that caring, because there's just so much enigma with, they're going to go soft, they need to be heavy. So I didn't even care if this album was heavy or not. I just wanted them to make good music. And that's what I based my rating off of. So yeah, let me know why you think this album is the greatest thing ever, other than the fact that it's heavy. Or let me know why you think it deserves a worse score. A lot of people out there, like I said, it's pretty split. People either love it or they absolutely hate it. And I'm giving you my opinion, so I'd like to hear yours. And again, if you have anything you want me to review, new or old, leave a comment below letting me know what it is. Throw it on the whiteboard. I'm doing a request Wednesday every single week, where every Wednesday I release a review that I take off of the whiteboard. I usually get around to every single request, but if I don't, just keep leaving it. I'll see it. It'll be up there eventually, and I will make it happen for you. And if you do that, or you just happen to like what you see here, feel free to subscribe and click the bell icon. That way you get notified when I do upload videos. That way you don't miss out on any future reviews, especially if you leave a request. That way you don't miss out on it. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I'll talk to you guys next time.
I was just an ignorant kid relying on my parents' said to save me. Years gone by.